We kind of slept like almost as if we were in bunk beds. So
Uh-huh.
like two this way, two this way. At one point, I made the mistake of saying I kind of like how like I float around and I move around. And so once I said that, then for the next 15 minutes when we would go to bed, Reed would just kick me and I would watch him float.
Wow, that sounds so restful on top of everything else you guys were doing.
3, 2, 1, and liftoff. The crew of Artemis II now bound for the moon.
Good roll pitch.
The 4 crew members of Artemis II made history by traveling farther away from Earth than anyone had ever gone before. They dealt with zero gravity, they stared into the dark void of space and contemplated our place in the universe. And when they got back, they were hailed as heroes. They met with the president, they have fielded questions from dozens of journalists. But today, they will embark on perhaps their most challenging mission, answering questions from our most discerning listeners, children.
Hello, my name is Celine. This is Clara Jones. My question for the astronauts. Question for the astronauts. So I have a question for you guys.
We asked for questions from kids and got about 1,000 replies. And so we picked our favorites to ask along with the questions that we here at the Daily had for the Artemis II astronauts. Crew of the Artemis II, welcome to the Daily.
Thank you. Amazing. Thank you.
So this was a historic trip, of course. You circled the moon, you went to the far side of the moon, you lost contact with people back on Earth briefly. And we got a lot of questions about what that felt like. So here is a question from Colin in California.
My question for the astronauts of Artemis II is, how did it feel like to be on the dark side of the moon? Was it scary or was it adventurous?
Christina, scary or adventurous?
Wow. I would say in some ways, I would almost call it solemn. We had so much work to do, so we were also very busy, but we did know it needed to be commemorated amongst us when we were the 4 people out there by ourselves. And we did that. We took a moment and then we kind of got back to work.
But I can't imagine, Reed, that you're not up there looking at what you're looking at and being at least momentarily distracted from the very important work that you're doing.
He laughs because it's funny you asked me that question. Because the whole
Reed, it turned out that he didn't know his job before launch would be to always pull me away from the window back into the vehicle, but that did end up being his job. When we're on the far side of the moon, for us, the far side of the moon is often lit by the sun.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever we have a new moon here on Earth, that means that the far side is fully illuminated, which was really special for us because human eyes had never looked at what we were looking down on. So that was really special for us to get to see. The thing that I just can't stress enough is we did take a moment, but then we had so much science that we were trying to conduct. We were trying to record everything that the human eye saw on the far side because we never see it here on Earth.
You obviously knew intellectually that you would be the first people to see what you saw. But when that moment came, was there something about how you felt, Victor, that surprised you, perhaps?
I haven't found good words to describe it, but how it felt was overwhelming. There was a time when Reed mentioned that our brains have not evolved to see what we're seeing. And so we were actually, transitioning from the far side to coming back toward the near side when the sun went behind the moon. It got really bright and then really dark. And looking out at this really large orb, it was all of the things. I mean, there were so many different emotions at the same time. I can't tell you how many times I heard something like, "Oh my God," and I think that was not in vain. That was an appropriate response for what was happening at that moment. It was so unreal.
The kids were actually obsessed with every single part of your trip. They wanted to know what space smelled like. They wanted to know whether it was cold, whether it was hot, and they had a lot of questions about what you guys ate. So we're going to play you a montage to give you a flavor, if you will, of some of those curiosities.
My question for the astronauts is, was the food in space as good as the food at your home on Earth?
Astronauts have to eat broccoli. Quick question for the astronauts. Do they have pizza parties up there? How do you guys get food if there's no restaurants? What do you eat in space for dessert?
I'll take first stab at this. First, yes, we have broccoli. And it's actually delicious. Broccoli au gratin, one of my favorite things to eat. It's
You're just saying that. You're just saying that because you're talking to parents of the children.
Absolutely not. It's got cheese in it, but you just add a little bit of water and heat it up. It was very good. The food is magnificent. Our food research team has done a great job making food in space very good. We have tortillas. You can put brisket on a tortilla. We have chicken and beans, broccoli, spicy green beans is another favorite. What were some of your favorites? Beets.
Yeah.
Kale salad.
Yeah. Chicken noodle salad.
Wait, are you talking about tortillas because if you fold it, it doesn't the food doesn't float away?
Yes.
Is that the idea? That's the tactic?
And I wanted to bring in tortillas because Jeremy, on the first day, I don't know if you invented it, but you may have seen we had Nutella. And taking Nutella and spreading it on a tortilla and then folding that in half, it almost made like a chocolate crepe. And Jeremy was just distributing those around the cabin, and they were a great dessert.
Did any of that stuff spill? Did you have a moment where the tortilla opened and it...
Constantly. But you know what? It's funny. I like to say that, we shared a lot of meals. Sometimes it was on purpose. And so, pieces of things would fly by and you make sure it's food, but then you just enjoy what your crewmates eat. Make sure it's food.
First day up there, I had some oatmeal and I didn't put quite enough water in it to rehydrate it. And so when I opened it, there was crumbs of oatmeal that just started floating out. And I don't mean like 2 crumbs. I mean like 10,000 crumbs of oatmeal. And I was very embarrassed. I've flown in space before. I shouldn't be making these mistakes. And instead of being annoyed, Victor just floats over and goes, "Oh, this is my favorite game." It just starts eating them all out of the floating area around me. And it was really great.
That's amazing. I think there's actually a Simpsons episode where that exactly happens.
With the potato chips.
Yes, exactly.
I'll take care of this.
Our next question is from Leonardo in New York City. It is about another aspect of daily life.
My big question for the Artemis II crew is, what does it feel like to sleep upside down in space when there is no gravity? Also, is there gravity in your dreams? Thanks. I want to be an astrophysicist when I grow up.
I'll just say that one of the great things about being in weightlessness is there is no upside down.
There is no upside down. Wait, I'm just thinking that through,
down.
Meaning that any side could be right side up.
Mm-hmm.
It all feels the same.
It's all convention. What do you call the floor and what do you call the ceiling? Could be anything.
Wow, you just blew my mind. Everyone listening, their mind just got blown in that moment thinking about that.
And the way we slept reflected it. What did we say? The Bat Cave or something?
We were trying to figure out how we were going to arrange ourselves. And I kind of called shotgun on the best place, I think. I hung from the ceiling.
Did you have to strap yourself in some way? And did anybody ever bump into anybody else in their sleep?
I'm sorry, Jeremy.
Yes. It was you? He just
yes
outed
and
you?
yes.
No, it was me out of here.
Well, we kind of slept like almost as if we were in bunk beds. So like two this way, but in opposite directions. And I ended up sort of in this middle space with Reed and Victor underneath me. And he would just every once in a while, at one point I made the mistake of saying, I kind of like how I float around and I move around. And so once I said that, then for the next 15 minutes, when we would go to bed, Reed would just kick me and I would watch him float, bounce around for a bit, and then I would just be drifting off, and then I get another kick and then I'd go for another ride.
Wow, that sounds so restful on top of everything else you guys were doing. The second part of Leonardo's question was, is there gravity in your dreams? Did anybody dream about gravity?
I think we all dreamed that we were floating at different times. And one really neat thing that happened, I think, to all of us was when we got back and woke up in our beds at home, we all felt like we were floating for a little while.
Wow.
Yes.
Wait, what is that experience like to wake up for the first time when you get home and you're not strapped in and you're not banging into anybody next to you?
Confusion.
100%.
Yeah, a little bit disappointing when you realize the microgravity's not real anymore.
Do you ever wake up in a hotel room and you have to take a few seconds to figure out where you are?
Yeah.
Even in my bed at home, I would wake up and I would look for the displays. I'm like, oh, wait, where am I? Oh, I'm at home. I'm under gravity. I'm safe.
We could not talk about questions from kids without a question about aliens. So we have one.
Hello, my name is Celine. I'm 8 years old, and I live in California, but I want to live in New Jersey. So I have a question for you guys on the Artemis II. Is there other life out there, a.k.a. aliens? And did your experience on the dark side of the moon change your answer? Yeah, that's it. Bye!
Aliens, guys?
Love that.
Who wants to answer?
I mean, I've been
What
to New
an
Jersey.
Jeremy?
When we think about the universe, and I was talking to you before, every star you see is in our galaxy, the Milky Way. But then we think there's maybe a couple trillion other galaxies out there. So it's pretty hard to fathom that there's not alien life out there.
We've looked. I mean, we have a lot of resources pointed at this dark sky looking for answers, and it's a great question, and I hope it continues to drive us to explore further.
I just want to point out that no is the answer that somebody who saw an alien but wasn't allowed to talk about it would say.
You realize if we found alien life out there and we came back and reported on it, NASA would never have a budget issue for the rest of eternity. So trust me.
Why would we hide that from you?
That is one good argument. I'm not going to argue with that.
Also, we tell Reed not to say things all the time, and he does. So,
okay, we did get one question that I think embodies a little bit of the skepticism that some people have about the cost-benefit analysis of space travel. So here is Isaac from Arlington, Virginia.
Hello, I'm 13. I'm a normal listener of the Daily, and I just want to know, why is it important that we are spending billions and billions of dollars on something? We're not even going to the moon, we're just looking at it.
First of all, Isaac, I think it's a really important question to ask because we have a lot of problems here on the planet that we need to tackle. And we are investing a lot of money in space exploration, but I do see it from a different perspective. I see the genius that we bring together under the focus of a common goal and the things and the solutions that people create that allow us to go out into deep space do benefit us here on the planet. And I think if we didn't have that push of exploration, we would miss out on these extraordinary innovations that only come together when it's not one mind, but when it's 1,000 minds trying to solve a problem together.
Christina, do you have anything to add?
yeah, absolutely. I personally agree with Jeremy. I love that we do devote less than 1%, less than 0.5% of what our government does to benefit this planet and all of humanity to exploring deeper. I see industrial benefits, commercial benefits coming back, medical benefits, studying our own bodies. Those things are tangible. We can talk about those. There's intangible in terms of inspiration. And to me, one of the other intangibles is, what questions are we answering for our time that can only be answered by doing the exploration that we are doing? Are we alone? What's important about ourselves? Who are we as humans? We have to leave our planet to know those answers.
So you obviously traveled more than 250,000 miles away from people that you love and your home. And we got a lot of questions from kids about what that distance might have felt like. This one is from Aiden. He's 8 years old, and he lives in Santa Cruz Mountains, California.
My question is for Reed, Victor, Christina, and Journey. How did you feel when you were that far away from Earth? Was it lonely?
It was obvious us how far away we were, but I still felt the same connection with everything back home. So whether that's how we're intertwined together, but it didn't feel lonely at all. But what I did get this new sense of is how everything is sort of distributed in our galaxy. When you look up in the night sky, every star you see is in our galaxy. This is one galaxy in the entire universe. And we were looking out from our spacecraft and we were just seeing these other stars in our galaxy, but I was seeing them in a three-dimensional space.
Mm-hmm.
Like some of them looked closer than others. And the Earth and the Moon, and seeing them and just seeing how they're juxtaposed, I have such a hard time explaining it to people, but it was very different than I expected. Every time I would look out and I would see that sort of three-dimensionality of things, I would sort of see our place in this galaxy, if you will. Like, that was pretty profound for me. And I kept having the same sense of being very insignificant as an individual amongst that. Extremely, yet extraordinarily powerful as a human race and what we can do.
When we would let our eyes adjust, you could look to the left and see a tiny Earth. We would call it tiny Earth, and it was endearing. We called it tiny Earth. It is tiny. I mean, at some points, it's like a fingernail just sitting out there. But you could let your eyes adjust, and you could see a lot of the cosmos. I don't know that this will relate, but if you look at the crescent moon, it's rounded and it stops where the sun goes to shadow. But when you look at a crescent Earth, the same thing happens, but the edge of the Earth just extends a little bit longer. And if you look at it, you realize the extension right there, it's like two little tiny whiskers coming off the edge of Earth. It's the whole atmosphere. It's everything that keeps us alive. you really sense fragility. You just sense such a special little tiny thing right there, that atmosphere. It looks different than the moon. You can just tell the moon cannot sustain life, but Earth can. And when you put those two things next to each other, the thing that enables us to live here is so tiny, it's impossible to even rationalize in your mind.
The Earth looked as if you put a high-definition computer graphic into an original movie, like when we started, Steamboat Willie, the first black and white moving pictures. It just stood out. It was so different. The colors, the shapes, our planet looks alive. Even though we can't see human structures and boats and roads, it looks alive because the swirls change. And it demands your attention. When you see it out the window, you have to stare at it.
I think one of the most beautiful moments from this, at least for people watching back home, was the video read where you dedicated the crater to your late wife, Carol.
A number of years ago, we started this journey in our close-knit astronaut family, and we lost a loved one. Her name was Carol, the spouse of Reed, the mother of Katie and Ellie.
Would you mind describing that moment and what you were thinking and feeling?
Well, thank you for that. I mean, that was a special moment for this crew. And it was clearly a special moment for everyone watching. Christina had the idea, and Jeremy approached me before we launched and said, hey, the crew would like to do this. And that's an amazing moment when three of your best friends propose something like that to somebody who's very special. And I said, Jeremy, it would be amazing honor for my family, and I would love it if you all did that, but I cannot do the talking. And so Jeremy did.
There's a feature in a really neat place on the moon, and it is on the near side, far side boundary. In fact, it's just on the near side of that boundary. And we would like to call it Carol, and you spell that C-A-R-R-O-L-L.
It was very emotional for all of us. Jeremy, I still can't believe you made it through that. And I can't believe that the thought that you all put into that was very special for me. That was the moment that our crew coalesced, and I think we were bonded there forever.
I have one last question for you guys. I wonder whether being up there with no life gave you a renewed appreciation or wonder for what I think is sort of the unlikely scenario of life down on Earth and just all the things that had to come together for us to even be here right now.
1,000%.
Absolutely.
That was one of the biggest takeaways, because when you look out and you see the Earth, tiny Earth, and you mostly see blackness around it, you recognize what an completely unlikely scenario this is. And what had to come together to make it. There is some such thing as a global scale, and we have a choice as to what we do with that. There is not just a background here that's unchangeable. It's just a small place in a really big universe.
This is the second time I've lived in space. I had to become very comfortable with we don't always have the answers. We think through a lot of scenarios, and we have a lot of answers, but we don't have all the answers. And that's okay. I'm comfortable with not having all the answers. But also the questions we ask, like, were we created? Did we evolve? I look out at the Earth and go, that looks too unique to be a mistake, but it also could have been things coming together that we can't explain right now. Whether you believe in Big Bang or whether you think this was intelligently done, I think all of us can find something to connect to in it. And just being willing to have a dialogue instead of being certain about the answer is, to me, more important.
You're reminding me of what the great scientist Richard Feynman once said about it's okay to not know. It's the question that's important. Do you have any final thoughts about that?
What I sort of wanted to end with for me is just a gratitude to people who paid attention to the mission. And I think there's something really special there that we did something positive, not the four, we global, we did something positive and we paid attention to it. And so what I have a renewed sense for is that people are willing to spend energy and pay attention to the positive things. And therefore we have a choice of where we put our energy and our attention. And yeah, the negatives are out there, but we don't have to just focus on them. Let's focus on the positive.
Our world, our choice.
Thank you all so much for spending this much time with us.
I get my last word.
Oh, sorry. I was looking. I thought you were nodding like this is their last thing.
This is the most profound
wait.
three comments you could ever hear. So if there's kids listening, I want to give homework. One thing I've noticed since we've been back, we have an appreciation for the beauty of nature that I didn't recognize before we launched. And I noticed this. We were touring a very special area of the White House, and we went into the flower shop. We were very lit up. You could just tell the smell, the sights, everything was incredible. And as we were walking in here, spring is here. And there was just a row of tulips that were in bloom. And my homework would be, the next time you see something in bloom or something growing out of the ground, just stop for a second and look at it and just be impressed by it. Just take a second and be impressed by it. Because sometimes you have to leave and look back and then come back to realize the simplest little thing can be the most impressive thing you have seen all week.
Crew of Artemis II, it has been such a pleasure, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.